So you want to turn your photos into silhouettes so you can make something like that? Well, search no more, cause this video will teach you how to go from this to this. Hey guys, what's up? David here. Just like the intro said, today we are going to learn how to turn your photos into silhouettes. So one important thing to note for this tutorial is that we are going to be using a vector tracing software. I'm using Illustrator, so no worries there. If you use another software, you can still watch the tutorial and gain some valuable insight, but I will not be able to help you in the details if you have some really specific software related questions. So now that we got this out of the way, let's get into it. For this tutorial, we're going to use this photo of Elliot from the series Mr. Robot. I've chosen him firstly because this series is amazing and you should give it a watch, but also because he has a contrasting face, which will make this operation easier. However, you can do this with any face, and I will show you how. The first thing we are going to do is prepare the photo for tracing. To do so, we are going to use an adjustment called threshold, which turns photos into binary, high-contrast black and white images. This is going to be helpful since silhouettes are basically a mix of light and shadow. I will show you two ways to perform a threshold, first a free way, then the best way. The first option you have to achieve this effect is to use a free online service, like pinetools.com, which has a lot of photo editing tools, including threshold. Once you're on that page, click on Choose File and select the file that you want to upload. You can then press apply. As you can see, the first result is pretty underwhelming, as the left side of the face is too dark and we miss a lot of info. Let's try to play with that setting a little bit. Okay, at 50 we get more details, but now the face is too bright. Let's give it another try. Alright, 75 seems to be a fair middle ground. It might not be the same for your photo, but just play with that slider to find what works best for you. However, the limit of that method is that you can only use one value, and if your photo lacks contrast, you might not get good results. Which is why we have our second method, and that is Photoshop. So if you have Photoshop, open it. If you don't, you can skip to the next part, but you might still learn nice things if you stay. Alright, so first import your picture. The first thing we're gonna do here is get rid of the background, as we want to focus on the subject. To do so, make sure that your layer is unlocked by clicking on the lock symbol right here if you see one. Once that is done, go to Properties and under Quick Actions, press Remove Background. I'm gonna create a new layer by pressing Command or Ctrl plus Shift plus N, because we don't need that mask. You can also click on this plus button to create a new layer. Then I'm gonna select the two layers and merge them by pressing Command plus E. You can also right click and choose Merge Layers. Now that we have our transparent layer, let's add a white background for good measure by adding a new layer below our subject and using the Paint Bucket tool to fill it. Time to add a threshold effect. First, let's duplicate the layer so we can edit the photo in a non-destructive way. Then, go to Image, Adjustments, Threshold. First, let's focus on the jacket, which is the darkest part of the picture. This seems to be satisfying, so now we're gonna grab the eraser tool and erase everything that we don't want to keep. So that's the face and the top of the hoodie, which don't have enough detail. Now let's duplicate our first layer again and start a new threshold. We're gonna try to find a good setting for the face. This seems to work for the right side, but the left eye and the top of the hoodie are still too dark. So again, let's erase the parts that we don't want to keep, and one last time let's duplicate that first layer and apply another threshold. This seems to be working. Here we go! That's why the Photoshop method is superior, as you can apply the threshold to as many parts of the photo as you like. So this will work whatever skin tone or hair color your subject has. All we have left to do here is export the image as a PNG or JPEG. Alright, let's now jump into Illustrator, because the last step of our operation is to trace the silhouette. Once the image is imported, let's click on it and lower its opacity to about 50%. Then we're gonna go to Layers, create a new one, and lock the first one by clicking on the square here. Now position yourself on the new layer, take your pen tool by pressing P, remove the fill color and add a black stroke by double clicking on the stroke color. We can now start tracing. Let's begin with the outside. Just grossly trace the contour of the black part of the picture. You do not need to take in all the details. Remember that this will have to be cut, so it should not be too thin or your cutout will be too fragile. If you plan on cutting this with a Cricut, make sure not to have sharp edges in your tracing, as this will increase the chances of your paper getting ripped apart by the blade. You can see that I almost have only curves. If you are using a laser cutter, it doesn't matter too much, so you can experiment with your own style. So we have our first tracing done, but if we try to fill it, of course we are missing a lot of details. Let's now create all the other parts. Just spot other places where there is light and shadow on the picture and trace over their contour with the pen tool. When you reach the face, try to be mindful of what you trace because, surprise surprise, it is the most important part of a portrait. If you put too much shadow in one place, it will look off and imbalanced. This is why I'm not taking into account all the residual noise around the mouth and the nose. The focus should be on the main facial features. Alright, we've now traced everything, but if we make the right eye black, for example, we can see that we are not seeing this part of light. To fix this, we are going to use the Pathfinder and make cutouts where the light should break through the shadow. To do so, just make sure that the inner part is in front of the outer part. You can right-click on it and go to Arrange and click on Bring to Front. Then, select your two parts and click on minus front, the icon with a white square and a black square in front of it. Once that's done, if we try to fill the shape with black, you can see that the eye is now much more recognizable. I'm now gonna do the same with the rest of the parts. Alright, seems like everything is ready. We can now select everything by pressing Command plus A, fill everything with black, and delete the stroke. So that's it. This is how you create a recognizable tracing of a photo with only two tones. You can now export it as a SVG and import it in Cricut Design Space, Lightburn, or whatever you use for crafting. Alright guys, that's it for this one. I hope you enjoyed the video and most importantly, I hope you learned something from it. So if you want to see a project that I made using this method, you can watch the video that is right now on screen. And if you gained something from this video, please don't hesitate to give it a like. Subscribe to the channel and give me some comments. I'm looking forward to hear what you think about it. Until next time, thanks for watching and keep creating.